Hey guys, Bubba here with the BubbaNews, all in one word, all in one news. How are you guys doing tonight? I hope you guys are doing okay and staying dry. We are getting some major flooding up here. Well, at least it's beginning here in central Indiana, but I know from basically Louisville down to Memphis this weekend, they're talking 5 to 10 inches of rain coming. So we've got a lot of storms going on, a lot of rains, but oh man, I just want to eat and go to bed, but I still want to get this up just because there's so much going on with everything going on in the news, and that's why I'm calling this video Something's Gotta Give. We've got Turkey moving into Syria that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Houthis, about Iran, the latest with the hostage deals, all that kind of stuff. The B-2 bombers that you're seeing right here. CNN confirmed today that they are using them, and they've been using them there on the Houthis. So that's kind of crazy town. But yeah, those are the JASSMs, and those are those stealth cruise missiles, which is really wild. But yeah, let's just get with today's verse and get going. Yeah, Ephesians 4:32. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as in Christ God forgave you. Guys, we've got to forgive each other every day. We've got to forgive one another because this whole world is just full of so much darkness. And I know that you guys are seeing it like I am. And we've just got to forgive each other because Jesus Christ forgave us. And we've got to be kind and compassionate to each other. But yeah, let's keep going because there's no compassion or kindness right now going on in the Middle East. But yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Syria because Turkey is moving in more and more. And earlier today, we had, who was that? Marco Rubio met with the Turkish foreign minister, Fiden, and he said that Turkey wants zero confrontation with Israel in Syria. Unfortunately, actions are much louder than words. We'll have to wait and see how things play out. But Turkey has received Israel's message and their warning loud and clear. Why? Because Turkey doesn't want any trouble with Israel, at least not until Turkey gets established with their military air defenses set up there in Syria. So during his meeting with Marco Rubio, the Turkish foreign minister begged the U.S. government to inform Israel that Turkey no longer seeks military conflict. I think they're just crying wolf and just being nice right now. But this comes after the U.S. or the Israeli Air Force heavily bombed that T4 and Tias and Hama air bases in Syria last night, making them unusable for the Turkish Air Force. So tensions continue to rise between Turkey and Israel. I'm going to show you a map here. It's going to blow your mind. But yeah, Israel's not looking for conflict with Turkey in Syria. Meanwhile, Israel responds. Israel does not seek any conflict with Turkey in Syria, a senior Israeli official said today. Following days of rising tensions between the two countries and Israeli strikes on military sites in Syria, Israel will prevent the establishment of Turkish air bases or naval bases in Syria, says the senior Israeli official. If Turkey crosses any red lines, Israel will take action, he says. He said, we're not looking for a conflict with Turkey, and we hope that Turkey isn't looking for a conflict with us. But we also do not want to see Turkish entrenchments on our border. And there are all kinds of ways to handle this, the Israeli official said. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Israel Katz echoed this sentiment, stating that Israel will not allow Damascus to become a security threat to Israel. So, military officials in Tel Aviv confirmed that Israel sees Turkey's growing military presence in Syria as a serious concern. And Israel's fear, it does, and it stems from two key issues. The first is Ankara, Turkey's reported efforts to rebuild the Syrian army along the lines of its own modernized military model of Turkey. And secondly, Turkey's goal of establishing a long-term military foothold inside Syrian territory. So here's what the Turkish foreign minister had to say.
Well, first of all, we don't want to see any confrontation with Israel in Syria because Syria belongs to Syrians. Syria doesn't belong to Turkey. Syria doesn't belong to Israel. We cannot talk on behalf of the Syrians. The Syrian security should be decided by the Syrians. If they want to partner with certain countries, with certain international countries, they're welcome. If they want to have a certain understanding with the Israelis, it's their business.
So basically, Israel will prevent the establishment of Turkish air bases or naval bases in Syria, says a senior Israeli official, saying if Turkey crosses the red lines, Israel will take action. So, but just remember, last weekend, Erdogan stated, may Allah, for the sake of his name, destroy and devastate Zionist Israel. President Erdogan of Turkey over the weekend, this past weekend, was calling basically for Allah to devastate and destroy Israel. So the Turkish teams toured at least 3 Syrian air bases recently to review potential deployment of forces, but then Israel bombed those old Syrian bases. But here's another thing. This is what I want to talk about too, because we've got to keep our eyes on the David Corridor as Israel continues to move into Syria. This is a strategic demilitarized zone in southern Syria that wants to connect Israel with the United States troops in controlled areas there in eastern Syria. All right, see down here in the lower left, you've got the Golan there with Quneitra and going into the darker blue with Israel. That whole area in red and the green is Syria, but in basically where this arrow goes, south of that, all the way to the Jordan border, Israel wants to take control of. So Israel has not made any official announcements, but analysts have pointed out to this corridor as being a covert project aimed at linking the Kurdish-controlled eastern Syria to Israel via a continuous land route. And this would serve as a pragmatic counterweight to the Iran Shia crescent, that goes basically from Iran into Iraq, into Syria, into Hezbollah. So this, that they've been sending weapons and people through Iraq and Syria to Hezbollah and Lebanon for years. So disrupting that supply chain into Syria and Lebanon from Iran would continue to loosen the Iranian grip over the Middle East region. So this would also serve as a shield for Jordan, because they are also a key player in stabilizing the region. But it sounds like this is jumping from one mess into a much bigger one. Here's the bottom map, and you see where Israel is down there in the lower left in the pink, and then in the middle there, that's Al-Tanf, where the United States controls there in south central Syria, and then up there in the pink is all east of the Mediterranean River. And Israel wants to connect in the black circle all the way from the Kurdish region, where the United States controls it there in eastern Syria, all the way through Al-Tanf, all the way hooking it back to the Golan Heights there. They basically want to extend that yellow from up at the top all the way to touching Israel. So that's what they want. So we've got that to keep an eye on. But we've also got Hamas with the hostages, because today, Israel's telling those residents in Rafah there in the south, the southern 1/5 area basically of Gaza, to evacuate, because they keep going to want to attack the areas where Hamas has been shooting off these short-range rockets and where Hamas still is. But today, the Hamas spokesman, Abu Ubaidah, he declared, we have decided not to evacuate the hostages from combat zones, that the IDF should be evacuated earlier this week. Hamas basically issued a statement saying the IDF has issued evacuation orders for Rafah, Gaza City's Shajaya neighborhood, and other areas in northern Gaza. But the Hamas statement said that half of the current living Israeli hostages are located in areas in which the Israeli army has requested to be evacuated in recent days. We have decided not to transfer these hostages from these areas and to keep them under strict security measures, which are extremely dangerous to their lives. So they want to keep the hostages where Israel plans on bombing, it sounds like. And if Israel's actually found out where the hostages are and they're going to start bombing because that's where the rockets are coming from, Israel's going to have a tough choice. They're going to be in a big dilemma. Do they bomb or do they not? Because it appears that most of the Hamas terrorists are literally in location to where these hostages are being hidden. And I think Israel's honing in on where these hostages are located as well. But this is also Hamas's way to blame Israel for hostage deaths if Israel bombs these locations in Gaza. So we've got to keep an eye on that. But yeah, officially today, Defense officials confirmed that B-2 stealth bombers are actively conducting precision strike operations against Iranian-backed Houthi targets in Yemen. The missions are being launched from Diego Garcia, and it says that Iran may withdraw military advisors from Yemen due to safety concerns, but it is unlikely to abandon the Houthis entirely, especially after the weakening of other proxies like Hezbollah. Oh, but we've got to keep up with guys like Senator Tom Cotton, because he says that Trump wants Iran to surrender their weapons of mass destruction like Gaddafi and Libya did. Do you guys remember that? U.S. Senator Tom Cotton says the deal President Trump wants with Iran would be one that neutralizes Tehran's threat completely. He prefers a deal like Libya made with the United States in 2003, alluding to Gaddafi's giving up all of his weapons of mass destruction. If this statement by Senator Cotton will be the official position of the U.S. administration in direct or indirect negotiations and talks, then the chances of an agreement with Iran are slim to none, and the chances of an escalation with Iran are extremely high. B, Iran won't accept the demand to implement this new Libyan model. Iran will try to emphasize their willingness to give assurance that their plan is for peaceful means purposes only, but definitely not to dismantle their nuclear systems. C, we are getting closer to a decision point for the Iran and U.S. war coming, and a demand to implement the Libyan model means that negotiations between the United States and Iran are basically worthless right now. Man, this is what I'm saying. Something's getting ready to pop. Something's getting ready to give. Something's got to give soon. I mean, even the U.S., they're using all kinds of weapons against the Houthis so far. So we'll see what happens once these B-2s really start hitting hard. And now I'm going to switch gears to this guy. Because we're going to have to keep an eye on this. Because earlier today, a fatwa was issued by the World Council of the Muslim Ulemas, which are the clerics that represent the Ikhwan clerics worldwide on Gaza and Syrian affairs. They come out with this week, and they say that there's two major guidelines. There's no sources for law except theirs through these fatwas, through these agreements, these legal documents. But here's what they're saying. There's no recognition of Israel, and they're saying to their people to prepare for jihad, holy war. They want this to go forward and spread like wildfire in the coming days in Islamic circles and against Jews. Number 1, speak on pulpits and squares and in front of crowds of men everywhere. That sounds crazy as it is. 2, urge the Islamic believers to fight, starting with yourselves and those close to you. In other words, you make the decision to come to fight against Israel. Let's all unite, because this is what's getting ready to come up. And I believe this is going to start heading towards the people groups of Psalm 83. So I'm just going to keep talking for a few minutes because this gets really crazy, and you just need to listen if you can. I don't mean to bore you guys, but this is just crazy town. So they basically want the guys to start going forward, speaking publicly in squares in front of people, especially men everywhere. They want to urge the Islam believers to fight, starting with yourselves. You make the decision, and then you get those close to you, like your brothers, your cousins, your nephews, your dads, your parents. You know, this is weird, but to show the people that you're ready to leave the convoys, I always get that word messed up, the mujahideen, the fighters, for actions speak louder than words. But basically they're calling for a holy war in Israel. And it sounds very prophetic if you ask me, because this is wild. The decision in the fatwa community of the International Union of Muslim Scholars issued a fatwa on the ongoing aggression against Gaza and the violation of the ceasefire there in Israel. So the most important points include 1, the obligation of armed jihad against the occupation, Israel, in Palestine for every capable Muslim in the Islamic world. 2, the obligation of immediate military intervention by Arab and Islamic countries. Sounds very Psalm 83-ish, and then eventually Ezekiel 38 with the surrounding. Oh my goodness. Number 3, the obligation of besieging the occupying Zionist enemy by land, by sea, by air, including waterways, straits, and all airspace in Arab and Islamic countries. So the obligation of besieging or taking over the Israeli land, by land, sea, air, waterways, straits, and all airspace. Number 4, providing the resistance militarily, financially, politically, and legally is a religious obligation. This is going to start, I believe, changing soon, guys. This is why I'm even bringing this up. Number 5, establishing an Islamic military alliance to protect the Ummah and deter aggressors is an urgent religious obligation. 6, they're prohibiting normalization with the Zionist enemy. That almost sounds like Saudi Arabia and others. 7, prohibiting the supply of oil and gas to the Zionist entity to Israel going forward. 8, reconsidering the peace treaties made by some Arab countries with Israel, with the occupying entity. Right now, we've got Egypt that has a paper-thin peace treaty with Israel. It was signed, I believe, in 1977. And then the other one with Jordan, there, what was that, 1994, I believe it was. I'm trying to remember my dates, but I mean, these are paper-thin peace treaties. So, reconsider the peace treaties? 9, the necessity of financial jihad to support our brothers in Gaza and the rapid opening of the Israeli crossings. That sounds like an invasion coming. And the Bible tells us about this. Zechariah 12, verses 1 through 9, specifically, it's the unsuccessful siege of Jerusalem. But then you have the successful siege at the end of the tribulation in Zechariah 14, but Zechariah 12, 1 to 9. It's telling us what's coming up. Number 10, calling on Muslim communities in the United States to pressure Trump and his government to fulfill his election promises to stop the aggression and to establish peace. So that's just starting to get crazy town. But on top of all that, this evening, now Netanyahu is planning to visit the White House on Monday. So all of a sudden, he's been in Hungary for the past few days, visiting there with Budapest, with good old Victor. But now he's expected to visit the White House on Monday? They're supposedly going to discuss tariffs, Iran, and Gaza. 4 sources with knowledge tells Axios. And Axios is reporting this, and he's usually pretty good. He's usually pretty accurate. So we'll see. But Netanyahu is planning a White House visit Monday, becoming the first foreign leader to meet Trump since the president imposed sweeping global tariffs. Those tariffs are going to be the downfall of the United States and the rest of the world. That's a whole nother video, but oh my goodness gracious. But 4 sources confirmed the visit, though Netanyahu may need court approval due to his ongoing corruption trial. So the sources said the plan could still change in large part for this reason. Israel's preemptive removal of tariffs on U.S. goods failed to stop Trump's 17% tariff he threw on Israel. So, discussions are going to cover Gaza, a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, and a stalled hostage deal. So Trump proposed the visit during a surprise call yesterday to Netanyahu while he was in Hungary, and the news comes out today. So Netanyahu thinks the chance of a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal are extremely low. And he wants to reach an agreement and an understanding with Trump about striking Iran's nuclear facilities when the diplomacy fails. And we know it's getting ready to fall apart. They're not even going to come to the table. So something else to keep up and keep on. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to show this next one. The second aircraft carrier is coming into the Middle East in 5 to 7 days. But this is going to put pressure on the entire Middle East. So this is pretty neat because it shows there on the left-hand side, the Harry Truman Carrier Strike Group and the Red Diamond there off the coast of Saudi Arabia there in the Red Sea. And then you've got the Carl Vinson down here in the lower right-hand corner and the Blue Diamond making its way around. And it's going to be in theater there in about 5 to 7 days. But the U.S. defense officials do confirm that B-2 stealth bombers have been conducting strike operations against the Houthis. So, the carrier there, Truman's been there for 3 weeks straight, and the second aircraft carrier, Carl Vinson, is on the way. But this is what the U.S. has deployed to fight Yemen. 2 aircraft carriers now. which have fighter jets, 130 or so. 130 fighter jets. Just think about that for a second. F-35s, F-18s, 130 of them. So that's pretty good showing. They've got multiple U.S. Navy destroyers. They give it a nuclear-powered submarine. But this is becoming very costly for the United States quickly. So something's got to give. They've spent basically $1 billion already and counting. So just with the attacks and everything going on with the Houthis. So something's got to give. And remember how I was talking about how like a bunch of things are getting ready to set up for the Middle East and the Psalm 83 war? And this is crazy too, because activists in Jordan with the paper-thin peace treaty and Egypt, paper-thin peace treaty, are calling for civil disobedience and a general mobilization. We were just reading about that with the Fatwas, to pressure governments of Egypt and Jordan to take serious action to halt the Israeli war on the Gaza Strip. So as Israel continues on the Gaza Strip, and we even could start seeing some stuff this weekend there with some major protesting going on in Jordan, if not in Morocco. We'll definitely see it in Yemen. We'll definitely see it, oh goodness, who else? Bahrain. We might see it, we'll see. But I mean, the fatwa was made this week by the fatwa clerics to unite and begin a jihad holy war against Israel. So when all these civil things start happening and unfolding, and I believe they're going to happen soon, it would be Israel's nightmare if the Egyptian president al-Sisi and the Jordanian king Abdullah were to fall. Because right now there's stability because of the president of Egypt and the king of Jordan. If they were to fall and the people groups start uniting, they could get with Jelani's guys up there in Syria, because he basically did the same thing with his guys, took over Syria from Turkey. But we're going to start seeing more Middle East restructuring and overthrowing of governments unfolding, I believe. And the people groupings that are part of the Psalm 83 war could start rising and making themselves known very soon. So those are some things, guys, I am paying attention to and I'm watching. But I am excited, and I'm just excited because we literally can see Bible prophecy being unveiled before our very eyes. And it just shows us how close we are to the soon return of Jesus. Guys, this is no time to be playing games. This is no time to be living on the fence. There is no gray anymore. It's black or white. And soon right now, even if you haven't accepted Christ, you still have a choice. You still have a decision. You still have freedom to make that decision. The day is coming, if you don't accept Christ, where that freedom will be taken away. And you'll be forced to worship something else much worse. But guys, keep your heads up. Look up. Your redemption draws nigh. Jesus is coming so very soon. This is all I just wanted to get out to you guys tonight. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know how I can pray for you guys and how I can be a blessing to you. But, only by the grace of God go I. That's the only reason I have a mouth to be able doing this. There's a lot of things going on, and I ask for your prayers for even, I know this sounds silly, but for my neck. I believe I have this thing called tech neck. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's technology neck or something like that, but it's because I have my head down all the time looking on this phone and looking up news and whatnot. But I've been praying lately as well, like, Lord, help this not to be an idol to take the place of you, because only you, Jesus, are worthy of it all. So maybe I need to take a break for a few, but I'm going to keep going for now. And we just got to stay plugged into the Word of God. So I ask for your prayers for my neck. And if you guys have any suggestions, throw them in the contacts or the comments link below. But thank you all for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Maranatha.